Hi, everybody, and welcome once again to another Tuesday without Toomey. But we are in our own homes, so at least Toomey can feel comfortable knowing that he's doing the same exact amount of social distancing from his constituents now as before the pandemic.
Well, the difference is now we get to see his face telling us that we should be wearing masks. Nothing about needing, to fund healthcare or access or anything like that, but you should be putting a tube sock or a t-shirt or something over your face when you go outside.
Absolutely. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that if you, on the rare occasions you do go outside, I think it is important to wear some sort of facial covering, but it's also important to have health care, and it's also important to have money, and it's also important to care for our workers and our hospitals by making sure that they have the proper protective equipment. So these are things Toomey's not talking about unless we're going to just send our healthcare workers our own homemade masks. So good job, Toomey, recognizing finally there's a pandemic. You're not really hitting the mark on what we need you to do, and we expect more. We have Adam Fishbein here. How do I spell your name? Say your name.
Fishbein.
Fishbein. Okay, good. Before I just continue to mutilate your name, we have Adam Fishbein here, and he is here to talk to us about COVID bills and specifically education and disability concerns. So that is our topic for today. And so I'm just going to let Adam take it away. Adam, take it away.
Okay. Well, I'm Adam. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am a master's of public administration student, actually graduating in about a month.
Oh, wow. That's a good time. We need you.
Yeah, from American University.
Great.
And I'm a longtime disability advocate / policy wonk. I've advocated on Capitol Hill and Harrisburg. I'm currently on the Young Adult Leadership Council of the National Center for Learning Disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
I'm vice president of the Pennsylvania Tourette Syndrome Alliance Board of Directors. And I'm also a disability policy advisor for Matt Miller for New York. It's a New York State Assembly campaign. And I just want to preface this, all opinions are my own, and that I am not speaking on behalf of any organization.
Okay, that's fair. All opinions I have are 100% my own too. Toomey, you could do a lot better job. Okay, we there are so many communities that are being affected by the coronavirus right now. And sometimes, one benefit of staying at home is we're protecting our healthcare workers by not winding up in the hospital. But one thing that can seem problematic is we are distant and maybe not as connected. Well, we're not always as connected to the people that might need help. And it seems like it would be this an a special problem or difficulty for people with disabilities who already have issues with access. And now we're dealing in a situation where everything has changed, and the things that we do to support each other we can't do as effectively. What do you think we can do from where we are to try and help the disability community?
So first, I would say definitely keep in mind, well, first, stay home.
Well, yes, we're doing that.
and I say that be particularly for the disability community, because the disability community includes so many people with underlying conditions
Mm-hmm.
that make them at risk.
Mm-hmm.
And so stay home. And if you do have to go out, like we were saying, wear a mask.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important that we recognize also, in terms of mental health, that some people are going to have a harder time with this social distancing and the mental health implications of it, as opposed to and as opposed to people who may not, they have they don't have as many mental health issues, and they can kind of get through it and not to minimize anyone's experience, but
Mhm.
you know, there is an aspect of this that is very much the mental
Mhm.
health mentally damaging. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense. Not all disabilities are things we can see. And
most are not things you can see.
mhm. Yeah. So I Rosalind has asked us to ask next. She has a wonderful thing of specific questions, which I love about her. And any of you who are watching the chat will be able to see them come up in the chat. So we wanted to ask about the CARES Act and how it impacts special needs education and civil rights.
Yeah. So, well, first, the CARES Act, it so fortunately it does not provide waiver authority for IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act,
Mm-hmm.
which provides students with disabilities their civil rights. Um, Fortunately, there's not a waiver for that, but it does direct the Secretary of Education to advise Congress to submit a report within 30 days of the passage of the act um, on what states and districts may need waivers for IDEA, and that is something that I and many different disability organizations oppose. It sets a horrible precedent. It pretty much says that anytime there's a crisis, that you know our civil rights, the disability community's civil rights, can be taken away, and that's unacceptable.
Yeah, no, that's so basically just to kind of reiterate what you just said, the way the CARES Act is worded now and the act that passed allows for waivers, allows for states to like. So what sort? I guess so. What sorts of things would that include? Like, can you give an example?
Yeah. Um, so one thing that is that's been an issue that I know I've heard about as an issue for school districts is, for example, they for distance learning, online learning, a school district does have a distance learning platform and they're teaching on that, but let's say there's a student with ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
and that student usually has support,
Has support, yeah.
has support, and they don't have that at home,
Right.
and their parent most likely is working, and they also aren't trained to
Right.
support them.
And they're also under the insane amount of stress of trying to decide how am I going to, when is this check coming from the government, if ever, how am I going to get food into my house? I'm not used to having my kid around all the time.
Exactly.
Just, all of the various things. What if we get sick? Right. So this is a kind of this is a difficult time for everybody, but yeah, if you're trying to provide support to a child with special needs, that just makes it extra difficult.
Yeah. So that's something that school districts are contending with, and
Mm-hmm.
and I get the inclination to or the preference to just throw up your hands and say, this is a hard time for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
and we should lessen the burden. But
Mm-hmm.
that's not the way we should be doing it. The way we should be doing it is finding creative, innovative ways to solve the problem of uh, the problems that students with disabilities are facing in this crisis. We shouldn't just be abandoning them.
Right. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I know in Philadelphia specifically, I think they're just not because of the income disparities and the fact that so many children don't have access to internet. I think they're just not educating anyone at all till the end of the year.
Mm.
That's what I read. Because a kind of what in some way what you're saying, not disabilities, people with disabilities, but because you can't really guarantee even an attempt at an equal education right now. If people do not have access to the tools that they need, they can't do it. But I assume this is not the case in the rest of Pennsylvania. This is more of a, so I guess in thinking of where we want to direct our activism, do you want us to call the governor?
So
Yeah.
the, in terms of the IDEA waivers,
Mm-hmm.
it's a federal issue.
Okay, so we should call Toomey.
Pretty much.
Okay, good.
You'd be writing to your members of Congress,
Yes.
on specifically saying why IDEA is important,
Mm-hmm.
and why there should not be waivers for it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because once you start waiving for IDEA for this, then it sets a precedent that we can just throw disabled people under the bus for anything.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's definitely not something we want to do. We have another question about, I guess, DeVos and the prospect of waivers. Is DeVos doing more than the CARES Act at this point to?
Well, DeVos is, I mean, she's the one who the CARES Act directs to.
Oh, great. Okay, right. Probably the worst person to do that job.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So we had some questions about school funding. We want to know what's being done either through the CARES Act, or I assume through a further bill, or is there any way that we can really direct Congress towards paying attention to and directing more funding to schools, especially in this difficult time, so that we can actually protect students and their civil rights to provide support as needed for disabled students and, all students. However, like, what are your thoughts on that?
So I've always been in favor of so in my from my area of expertise, the disability policy, I've always been in favor of fully funding IDEA.
Yes.
And honestly, I'm a little disappointed. I'm kind of disappointed in I guess in terms of the way that it went down and all of the funding or the provisions that Democrats pushed for to include in the bill, that like they really pushed for. I wish that they had put more of an effort, or I mean, hey, maybe it's in there. Maybe IDEA increases to IDEA funding for states is in there. Maybe it is a thousands of pages document.
Yeah.
And so it could be in there. I haven't read it fully. I don't think anyone really has.
I wonder if the people who wrote it did.
Especially to me.
Well, we all know. I mean, we don't know, but I think it's we can ask him.
Yeah, we should
find out what he has to say.
But basically what I'm saying is I do wish that Democrats had taken an opportunity to address that in this bill, because they were already addressing so many different priorities. Right.
So I think one way we can assure that this is a priority is by letting our representatives know, and that includes we strongly advocate calling Senator Toomey, and we strongly advocate calling Senator Casey. Senator Bob Casey
is an incredible advocate for people.
Good. So we should thank him for his hard work.
Thank him very much. And specifically his I know his disability policy advisor very well, Michael Gamel McCormick. He's a great guy, and I credit him and Senator Casey for so many great things.
I just want to direct Senator Toomey's attention, should he or any of his staff be watching this at this time, which would be a real blessing to us, that when you do right by your constituents have nice, kind things to say about you in forums such as this and at town halls. So Senator Casey it doesn't have to do with what letter is after his name. It has to do with what he has done. And right now, what Senator Casey has done is taken disability rights seriously. And this is something Senator Toomey can do if he so chooses.
Yeah, and to be fair, there are Republicans who are, it's not just Democrats who are in favor of disability rights.
Right.
Like, yes, they're generally, like, in terms of the provisions and the priorities that Democrats do favor, they tend to be more favorable to people with disabilities. But there are many supporters of people with disabilities in Congress, regardless of party.
Of course. And I think that's because people can look at their own lives and see how, disability and people with disabilities we're connected to people with disabilities. Often we are people with disabilities. And if we're not people with disabilities now, in about 30 or 40 years, we're likely to be.
Or even any time.
Right.
Honestly,
not to be grim, but like
after coronavirus, maybe, yeah.
At any time, someone can become a person with a disability.
So, it's clear you're super passionate about this. And it's one of the reasons why we invited you. I was just wondering how this affected you personally.
How IDEA has?
Yeah, why is, we all pick things that are important to us, and many things are important, but this is clearly the thing you have chosen to focus on to the degree of getting your master's. So I assume you have a really good reason. So if you want to share a little bit.
Yeah. So, I have multiple disabilities, and I've had them my whole life, and they have they've come with challenges, and I'm very fortunate in that I have an amazing support system, amazing parents who have advocated for me, and I wouldn't be where I am today without the support that they gave me, but also the rights that IDEA and AD and the Americans with Disabilities Act also gave me.
Right.
I had, when in elementary school, I had to, my public elementary school could not accommodate me and give me my free appropriate public education as I am entitled to from IDEA. And my parents had to threaten due process.
Yeah, my best friend's brother had a similar story, actually, and he was put into a correct program, but parents do have to advocate.
Yeah, so my parents had to advocate for that, and fortunately, we do have the resources. We did have the resources to do that. Hire a lawyer, get a neuropsych testing. We have those resources, but so many don't. And but the fact of the matter is, if IDEA had been waived at that time, or at any of the points where due process, where my parents threatened due process to the school district, at any of those times, if IDEA had been waived, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Right, and then we wouldn't actually have you where you are today.
Yes.
Which is what we need in our society. Every person has, we have to give everybody the tools that they need in order to become the best version of themselves they can be.
Exactly.
That's just my personal view.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Thank you. That was really profound. Is there anything else that you wish to share or say? I'm out of questions, so if there's anything else you want to share with us, please do.
Just please, you know, for anyone listening, please contact your members of Congress, and contact, you know, make your views known.
Right. And make it abundantly clear that we do not want to have IDEA waivers.
Yes.
Okay.
And also make sure to vote.
Yes.
We vote in 2022 to kick Toomey out.
We are laser focused on that goal because we have worked for 3 years to try and get Senator Toomey to be a better senator, and it's not working.
Yeah.
So we need a better senator, and if Senator Toomey doesn't want to be that better senator, we will find another senator.
Yes, we will. And so, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for being a part of our new format.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording now. So goodbye, everybody on the social medias.
Everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.